Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Cash Flow Positive. I'm your host, Kenny Bedwell, and we are continuing the series, this week's series, on how to increase your occupancy and maximize that occupancy. Because if we increase our occupancy, we make more money. So I wanted to actually bring on the guest. The special guest we have today is a consultant on the STR Insights team. She helps people find profitable deals. And all of our consultants own real estate and are very successful in short-term rentals. And we're going to hear her story and how she's applying the methods and the strategies I talked about in the part 1 episode with her own properties. And guys, she is cash flowing on her properties over $100,000 each. And one of them she bought for $625. So buckle in if you're driving. I guess grip the steering wheel tighter. I don't know, or take the slow route, because you're going to want to listen to this entire episode because this is really, really good stuff. And at the end of this, you're going to be able to walk away with all of the insights you need to be able to apply the strategies that our special guest, Jess Broyles, has applied. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Jess, welcome to the show. Tell us more about yourself.
I've been doing real estate now for the short-term rental world for about 6 years. And I actually used to be, I have a math degree and I used to be a math teacher. And I did that for 7 years. And then we chose for me to stay home to have start our family. Did that for, I guess, 5 or 6 years. And then chose to homeschool. And we just got to a point where we had some savings. And every time we vacation, we were trying to figure out where we were going to grow. How are we going to grow our investments, because we hadn't really done anything big at that point besides a 401k. And my husband, whenever we travel, because we have kids, and I also have trouble sleeping in the same room with everybody, I've been only staying at short-term rentals my whole life. And so when I go to these short-term rentals, and now we would stay at like really cheap short-term rentals, well, they were like not great. And I get really mad. And I was like, it wouldn't cost much to make this amazing. And so we started like endeavoring what we were going to do. I was like, you know what? I was like, I think that was like, we had gone on a vacation and we stayed in the worst one we had ever stayed in, like ever. And I got mad and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get something and I'm going to show everybody that it doesn't matter if you're at a low price point or a high price point, that you can make this amazing. And, so that's what we did. We just kind of jumped in. We didn't know a whole lot, but I also know that I'm willing to learn.
And when did you do this?
I hate to even say it because it's when everyone thinks that you did it because it was the craze. We decided to buy real estate in 2020, but it was before we knew what was really happening. So that was when Airbnb and vacation rental industry exploded. And so we ended up buying our first house in March of 2021, but totally naive to what was actually happening. And that was also, we had to buy our first house sight unseen. And that was totally overwhelming. And then I did everything that everyone says not to do. So our first home was a 7-bedroom home and I had no experience. So everybody told me that was the worst mistake I could make. And I love when people tell me that, because I'm like, all right, well, let me show you what I can do. And so, let me show you how I can prove you wrong. But anyway, I just knew my personality and I know I work hard. And so I learned really fast. And it turned out that I loved it. Like it didn't take me long to learn a whole lot because I absolutely loved it. It was kind of like a natural transition. And now I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Sorry, where did you buy again?
Yeah, St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay, St. Augustine, Florida. And what particular property size did you get?
So I bought at the time, the house was sold as a 6-bedroom with 3.5 bathrooms. And it had an office that I knew I could convert. And it also, at that time, it had no pool and it was on a double lot, which, so it had room. So my one requirement was that it had room for a pool. I had no intention of ever installing one. But I knew enough when I went into this to know that if I ever had to compete on a higher level, I needed to have room to expand. So that's why I bought this particular property, and at the time there was only like 5-7 bedrooms in all of St. Augustine. So I knew right there that would set me apart.
Let's get into some of the specifics of it, because I think this is all going to tie into the strategy of increasing occupancy in different ways, that I talked about on the part 1 episode. But so this property you bought was a 6-bedroom. How many bathrooms?
3.5.
3.5. Okay. So you've since transformed it to a 7-bedroom. Is it still 3.5 bath?
It is. And actually, this January, so I've owned that property now for 5 years. We just did a big renovation on it last year. It's on the exterior. And in January, I just signed my NOC yesterday. We are adding 2 more bathrooms, mainly because I have 2 properties next door. And the only difference between them really is bathrooms. And one has a game room, but it's not very impressive. And there's $100,000 difference in earnings between the 2.
Wow.
So guess who's getting 2 more bathrooms?
Yeah, seriously. Let's clear up this property picture. So you bought a double lot.
Yeah.
So one side was,
So the house actually spans both. It's pretty big. It's pretty like it's like 3,800 square feet, but the way it's laid out, it's over the double lot, which is really kind of unique in Florida overall, because a lot of the properties there are on these little tiny 50 by 100 lots.
okay.
So my back, like I have a almost 2,000 square foot patio in the back
Wow.
because it's massive.
Space, right? I think
Yeah,
that's
space.
key. So you bought, and then did you build another property on it, or is it just, or there's another property next to it?
We bought it. It basically was a dirt backyard with this really ugly tile little semicircle that was just there. And actually we left that back. I didn't. So when I bought that, and I try to stress this to other people. So when I bought that house, I literally just had enough money to like get into it and get it furnished. And I didn't have money for all the amenities. I just knew that that house had room to put the amenities when I was ready. So I was just like, well, we're going to rent it out this year and I'm going to save back up. And so that's been my strategy with actually my other property also. I wasn't ready to buy it, but it presented itself to me. So I was like, well, we have to figure this out. So I just bought it and improved it the following year when I finally had the cash to do what I needed to do to it.
So, and then tell me about there's other properties in that area.
So yeah, so the other property I have, and the only reason I bought it was because it's immediately next door to this one. That one I bought as a 5-bedroom, 3-bath. But that one was also unique, and this is also why I wouldn't have bought it otherwise, is it's already on a double lot, and then it came with an extra half a lot, which I know sounds weird, but the county was gonna put a road there, and they decided not to, so they deeded it to the house, like the land. And so I knew that I did not know what a 5-bedroom could do in this area. And so I was like, well, I know what a 7-bedroom can do. So worst case, if I can't make my numbers, I have the land space to build something else. And ultimately that's what I did. I added an extra cottage and I had a pool onto that property.
So what's that property rented out on Airbnb as?
It's primarily rented out as a 7-bedroom, 5-bathroom.
7-bedroom, 5-bathroom. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk numbers. What did you buy the first house for? That's next door.
$625.
$625. Wow. Okay. And that was the 6-bedroom that you turned to a 7.
Yep.
All right.
And it probably cost me to furnish it and do I made pocket doors. So when I look at properties, I look to see how the bathrooms are situated next to bedrooms. So to look to see if I can put a pocket door to create an ensuite. So, and when I looked at this property, I was able to I have 1 true master, and then I have 2 king en suites because I installed pocket doors into them. Yeah. So and that cost me about $100,000 to furnish it and just do the minimal that I did inside.
Did you put a pool into this property?
I did. So it was very interesting, and I think this is always important to remember. When I bought that property, I've never paid a mortgage payment out of pocket. It has done well since day one. So my very first year, I did 2 years in a row. I basically was in 5,000 of each other, so it was about 220,000 I made each year on that house. And then, and my husband kept telling me, you're going to need to put a pool in. And I was like, absolutely not. We're doing just fine. Like if I can make 200 grand and we call it a day, like I don't need the pool. And it was interesting over time, more and more large houses, everybody started putting a pool in Florida. And all of a sudden my numbers started dropping. And so, my worst year was the year before I put the pool in. I made 180. So I dropped 40 grand. And that was the day I was like, well, I guess we're putting a pool in. So,
And is that 180 just for this one house?
just for the one house.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. That's
Yeah.
impressive. For property, it was 625. You're doing 180.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I did 225 2 years in a row. And then that's when it fell. The third year it fell 180 when the market was maturing, we'll call it. And so then it was interesting. So I put that pool in. Actually, I just put that pool in this year. That was built out in March. So I lost some months. And we just actually, so even with my down months, it took me 2.5 months to get the pool in. I actually just did my numbers. That house is back up to 245 this year.
Wow.
So
what is that property worth, you think?
it's probably worth about 1.7, 1.8.
Jeez. So, wow. So you got it for 625 and it's now worth 1.7.
Yeah. This is why I love real estate. There's no other, it changed my life. Like there's no other industry, in my opinion. I'm an average person. As a teacher, we literally saved up for about 10 years.
Well, you said math teachers, so I don't know how average that is.
I might just be a little crazy.
Yeah, that's true. Or
funny story.
Anyway,
funny story. When I was a junior, I told somebody in study hall, they were a senior, I was a junior, and I asked them what they were going to do like in college. And they're like, oh, I'm going to go get a math degree. And I said, you're nuts. I was like, who would choose to do that? And then flash forward a year. And then like, there I was.
There you are. That's funny. Well, okay. That's awesome. And then the other property that's next door, 7-bedroom, 5-bath is correct?
Yeah. So that's what I created. It was originally a 5. The main house is a 5.3.
Okay.
And then and then just to give like perspective, it made 110 the first year, no pool, just as a 5.3. And then I thought I'd be okay with that, but it turned out I wasn't okay with that. So that's when I built on it's there's a breezeway that attaches to the main house. So there's 2 king suites in a little cottage, and then there's like a pool that's the courtyard.
Nice. Okay, and so you put a pool in that property. What did you get that property? What did you have to put into it to do all that?
Okay, so I will tell you, and I think this is also might be really important in today's environment. Now remember, I bought the first house for $625, and then when I had to buy, if I wanted to buy that second house, that was 2 years later in 2023, the asking price was $975, and I wanted to throw up because it was smaller. It was 1,000 square feet smaller. It was not as nice. So I was like kind of bitter. I'm like, why should I have to pay that? But it's also just what the market was. It's just what the market is, right? So I had to make a choice. And so I kind of did some calculations of what I thought I could do with it. And at the time I was like, well, you know what? That house could be my bank. So even if I break even, I know it'll appreciate. And I was okay with that. So I thought I was okay with that. So then when it didn't work out, it cost me, it was $240 for the cottage, and then I paid $80 for my pool. And it is heated. You have to have a heated pool. That's like non-negotiable.
How much revenue is that property producing?
So this is like the most exciting part. And so remember year 1, it did 110, and then wasn't satisfied. So I was like, we're going to put in so I spent, that's a lot of money at a front. So we did the 240 and the 80. So that was, over 300,000. Well, that property, this was the first full year with that property, and we just topped out at 345.
Wow. 345. And what is that property worth now?
That one's probably close to 2 million, like 1.9, I would guess. 1.9. Okay. It's probably close similar to the other one. I mean, it's just probably a bit more valuable.
Bedroom, probably a little nicer though. Yeah. More bathrooms, obviously.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that's really, really cool. And it's cool that did you leverage the equity from the other property to do this property, or you guys just kept saving up, or what, how did you get the capital to do that?
Yeah. So the first house, we literally only had 60,000 saved and I needed 100. So I have this trick that I do, and it's worked out really well for me. I have these 2 credit cards that I have that I don't use,
Yeah.
and I'm able to get every year $40,000 at 0% for a year.
Mm,
So I max those out, and I didn't know if I'd actually be able to pay it back. I was just hoping I could. That was kinda like
yeah.
taking a gamble. So I definitely paid it back within the year, and then, but then I kinda was like, "Oh, I could do this every time." So I have like an 850 credit score because I keep doing this. Um, so then what happens, I have never, even in 5 years, I've never spent a dime of all the money that we earn from our rentals. I reinvest it back into our rentals.
Yeah.
So I saved up the revenue from the first one. That's actually what created the down payment. But when I remember when I bought that second house, I didn't have like that literally took every dime plus the 40,000 on credit cards to get it. And I didn't touch it. I didn't do anything with it because I had no more money.
Right.
So, but then I saved back up again from the revenue from those homes. And then I did have to borrow. I had for the money I saved up, and then I did have to borrow $100,000, which I actually did hard money, actually through family, but I did do hard money. But I was able to pay it back within 4 months, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And so I didn't know that at the time, just for the record. I took out a 2-year loan with a family member.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's a hard money loan, so
yeah. So, but I was able to pay it back within 4 months and we move on. But, I do like the credit card. It's always kind of like a nice way to get infuse
yeah.
cash.
No, that's awesome. That's great. Now, you have these 2 7 bedrooms, and they're pretty much side by side.
Yep.
So let's talk about how you rent them out. Obviously, you rent them out as separate properties. Do you ever rent them out together?
We all have our strengths in this industry, and weaknesses. So, marketing by far is my weakness. My strength, I would say, is revenue management. And the reason
Mm,
why is because the only reason I have met those numbers is I'm really aggressive and I work hard for those numbers. That is not just like sit back. So I have 2 properties and I have 7 listings for those 2 properties.
wow.
So
That's awesome.
each house is rented as a 2 bedroom, a 5 bedroom, a 7 bedroom, and then a 14 bedroom is the combined. Um, so I feel like I've like nailed the whole market because it's like, and here's the thing, and I actually my ad for my 2 bedroom is, pay condo prices for for a luxury home. When you have a 7 bedroom, those rentals are coming in 3+ months out, right? Because for
Yeah,
people to organize, 16 to 20 people, that takes time. And here's the other thing, you don't want somebody renting your 7 bedroom home that is only planned 2 weeks out. That's like a nice big red flag for you.
yeah,
Right. So, um, my whole thing was like, to me, an empty night, part of this is letting go of your pride. Because, and it only took me about a month, but it did take me a minute to like let go of like, you have this $1 million house,
mhm,
and I'll say at peak season, we make about 1850 a night. So here's a house that can make 1850 a night. Well, my 2 bedroom, like for example, I have 4 days open. It's my only 4 days open actually in December or next week. And I have my 2 bedroom listed at 160 a night. That's like nothing. But here's the secret to that. And this has happened. There's 2 things for it. Part of it is it makes me feel good because I love being able to offer a luxury home to a couple. I've had honeymooners stay there that couldn't afford to go on a big vacation. So part of it's just a feel good thing of like they get to stay in a really, really amazing place for a price they maybe not have afforded, couldn't get otherwise, right?
right, yeah,
The other thing is I've had several come as a couple and be like, not expecting much because usually houses like this aren't available to small couples. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, your place is incredible. We're planning our family reunion here next year. So it's almost like advertising in a way because now they want me to give them the listings for the other size homes because they got to see and preview like what the house is.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I got a little list of questions here for you. Number one, how are you determining availability? So you
Okay.
mentioned the 7 bedrooms 3 months out,
Yeah.
the making it a 2-bedroom listing. How far in advance are you allowing people to book it as a 2?
Only 30 days. And then, so I only open up the 2-bedroom. And then it also depends on the season. And I'll tell you this, like, January and February are the slowest months down there. So
Yeah.
like I do have my February, what's left of my February, because I already have a lot of February booked, but like what I have left of February, I do have open as the 2-bedroom, but I'll put it as a higher price. Like it's not 160 a night in February, right? It'll be like 300 or 400 a night in
Yeah.
February, and then I'll drop it. Where most people aren't going to book it as the 2-bedroom. And if they do, then that's fine.
Let me ask you $1 million question. In your experience, why do you have to list it as a 2-bedroom instead of just a 7-bedroom or a 14-bedroom at that same price?
Why not list the 7-bedroom at 200 a night?
No, why not just drop the price on the 7-bedroom?
Oh, I've been there and done that. So, I will tell you, so, there is for anyone out there who's listening that has never done this before and like terrified of like being a party house or these, um, in the 5 years, I've actually only had, one legit, like, and it wasn't like like where they invited the outside people, but it was held like a party there. And it was the first month I was open because I had no idea what I had. And
Mhm.
I was selling my July nights at 550 a night.
Oh, wow.
And oh my goodness, what a lesson.
Right.
And it wasn't, and it was fine. There was no major damage it was my poor
Yeah.
cleaners who took the hit on that one. Um, but with large homes or any home really, but especially with the larger homes, I have found in St. Augustine what the magic number is. So my 7-bedroom will never be listed below 719 a night, period. Like end of
Mm.
story. What I've discovered as soon as I go below the $700 mark, I will get groups that don't respect my home and or respect my neighbors, like the expectation is.
Is it a certain number of people though that you associate that with?
No, here's the crazy part, and this is why, like, when regulations are made, it drives me out of my mind because they're like, "Well, we can control noise, like, if there's only 10 people in a home versus, say, 20." Here's kind of the irony what I have found in my homes. Anytime I've ever had an issue with noise, I swear to you, it's been 12 people or less. It's been 8 to 12 people because it's like a small group of friends who, like, are going for a wild weekend type of thing. My groups who are coming in at, we'll say, like, I'm even gonna say 14, like 14 to 20 people, 98% of the time, that's a family reunion,
Mhm.
and families are not partying it up in the backyard at midnight, right? There's small
Yeah,
kids they're putting to bed, they're
sure.
playing board games at night. I love my large families. I love them. And corporate retreats are and men's golf trips, please come to my homes because they are the most respectable. I love them. But yeah, I don't know. So I don't believe in that just like, and I guess for them, it's like don't be scared of like larger numbers because they're usually amazing.
So I guess I still why wouldn't okay, so if you drop the prices on a big 7-bedroom, you obviously get
Yeah.
bad guests. So with the 2-bedroom, you're limiting occupancy, right? You're saying sleeps 4 people or what?
Oh, it was only 4 people. So the 2-bedroom, it's only 4 people. There's no, like, sleeping on couches. There's no
Okay.
you get the 2 bedrooms and you're done.
That I just want to be clear for people who are thinking about
Yeah,
this strategy. So like when you're doing this, it's a 2-bedroom, but it only sleeps 4 people. When
yeah,
it's a 7-bedroom, it
yeah,
sleeps what is it like 20 or something or what's
yeah, it's
your
like
limit?
20, yeah, 20 we'll say 20, 22. Yep.
So how have you broken up the listings? So you have a 14, you have 2 7-bedrooms, you have 2 2-bedrooms, so that's what? 4, 5 listings so far. So what are the other 2 listings?
5-bedroom. So the one property, remember, is a 5-bedroom main house and then the
Yep.
2-bedroom cottage. So we call it the main house. Like you're only renting the main house and then we lock up the cottage.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then the interest, and I didn't know this when I bought my other 7-bedroom. This was just, it was already there, but it's something that people could do. The way my other 7 bedrooms set up is there's a main floor and then you go up the stairs and there's 2 bedrooms on one side and there's 3 bedrooms on
Mhm.
the other, where there's a door that you can close and I put a lock on it. So when they rent it as a 5-bedroom, I just close that door and it locks. And that's how I
Okay.
lock off.
Do you actually lock off certain sections?
Yeah.
Is your
Now,
cleaner doing it, or how are you? Yeah.
yeah, my cleaner does it. Now, I will tell you something interesting, and this is something that comes up that people ask me a lot. When I do the 2-bedroom, is that in both houses, it's the main house, and it's just that both houses have 2 bedrooms on the first floor.
Yeah.
So people ask me, well, how do you keep people from not utilizing the rest of the house?
Mhm.
And honestly, I just took a risk and I literally put plants at the top and the bottom of the stairs. And I tell my guests, you are only renting the first floor. Please do not go upstairs, blah, blah. And so far, I've never had anybody dispute. Now, I will tell you, I tell my cleaners to make sure that that house is presentable, like throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people might peek upstairs and they'll go look, and I want them to see an immaculate home everywhere they look, even if they're not
Right.
supposed to be, right? But um, honestly, because it's couples. I mean, almost night. Usually, they're just so grateful to have this huge. Because my first floors are 1,800 square feet. Like, where can
Right.
you rent 1,800 square feet for 200 a night with a
Yep.
bathroom and a pool and a game room and putt putt in the backyard? Like,
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. So are you telling your cleaners, "Hey, we've got a two
yep,
bedroom stay, go put the plants up," and then,
yep.
"All right, it's gonna be a 7 bedroom, get the plants out of the way," kinda thing?
Yeah, my cleaners, I give them a lot of credit. When I onboard new cleaners, it's a nightmare, and so I pray they never leave me. I've had to switch a couple times.
Now you know how I feel with you consultants, so
Oh, yeah. Well, I can give you a few tips about that too, Kenny.
yeah.
But I tell new cleaners, like, don't be overwhelmed by my email, but I give them an email and it tells them like when checkout is, because some people will get a later checkout depending on circumstances. There's like different I really lean into customizing the experience for my guests.
Right.
So we do a lot of little things in the house, like that's very specific to the guest. So my cleaners have to know all that. And then my cleaners charge me 3 different prices. So I have my 2-bedroom price, I have my 5-bedroom price, and that's another way that I can keep cost to
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions. You actually charge different prices
yeah.
as well. There's a one flat cleaning fee, but
Yep.
so it's a little bit. I mean, it's a little intricate, and I think it
It is. It's
requires a
not
little bit of
easy.
finagling. But
It is.
um,
It's not easy.
here's the $1 million question, and let's hope it leads to $1 million.
Oh, I can only
How
hope.
much revenue? You know the market. You've been doing this for
Yeah.
years. Hopefully, you know the answer to this question. I didn't prep you for it, but here goes.
Oh god.
What do you think if you were just to rent them out as 7 bedrooms
Yeah.
separately, no 7 listings, none of this crap,
Yeah.
but just like straight up 7 bedrooms? What would you be doing on each of the properties? So one's doing 245, the other one's doing 345. What would you be doing on those properties?
So interesting knowing that I was coming on for this. I've never done this before, so it was kind of fun. I actually started going through. Actually, if you want to see like a little behind the curtain, um, because this is very stressful for me to keep track of how I do my homes. I need it very visual. So like this is like my calendar, and I
Oh,
have it
wow.
color coded, and like it's how I can mentally keep track of it all. And but I went back and I have on this calendar when it's rented as a 2-bedroom, a 5-bedroom, all that stuff. So I went through and totaled it up. So I, at least for the one that's making 345, and I made just under 30,000 just as a 2-bedroom.
Okay.
So, and then I find it interesting, and I don't have the answer why this is. 7-bedroom is the primary. Like, so if I was renting just as a 7-bedroom, that house would probably make around 250 if I had, I mean, just as a
Yeah.
off the
Just
top
as
of
a
my head.
seven. Yep.
Yeah. So I'd say about 250. And then we'll say the 2-bedroom was like another 30. We do get a lot, not a lot, but I would say about about 10 a year of corporate retreats and weddings where
That
they
rent
rent
out the
both
whole thing.
homes. And I'm one of the only places in St. Augustine that you can get 14 bedrooms, like, even though they're not under the same roof, but like
Right.
there, right?
Yeah.
And both of my properties, the backyards are big enough to comfortably fit those 30 or 40 people, which is rare.
I just think it's such a good strategy. Like
Well, the interesting thing is the neighbor that I bought, I actually thought the house was borderline ugly. Like, I didn't even like it. And I was so angry because I don't know about you, but like when I was a kid and someone said, first of all, I never thought ever, 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 ever I would be able to afford $1 million house, period. Right.
mhm.
And then to show me that, hey, you could buy this $1 million property and it's ugly, I like was devastated. I was like, this is so not fun. Like
Yeah.
when you're a kid and you imagine $1 million, you imagine this like little McMansion and like the pool is already there, and that's
Well,
not
they
what this
kind of
is,
were. I mean, $1 million back in the day was,
right?
really, 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 really nice home. So
It's
yeah.
like the new $3 million home today.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
So, but I think that's what's important to just keep in mind. Like, there is, when it comes to real estate, I believe, to be really successful, there's a level of emotion. You've got to be a little bit calculating. And I
Mhm.
literally only bought that house because I knew I could capitalize on selling it as a 14-bedroom package. And even though that's not my primary, right? But like that's a big component for me. And so and now it ended up, and it's funny because my house that I made 100,000, 110 on the very first year is now my crown jewel. That wasn't by accident. Like, that was very calculated, and even when I bought it, so
That's really good to hear. Okay. So for those properties, and that's $100,000 for one property. You're probably talking $200,000 total for both properties, right? Like
are you talking
listing
about
them out.
netting?
Not netting, just
Oh.
grossing.
Like this year, my one property grossed 245,
Yeah.
and then my other property grossed 345.
You would have grossed 250 on the 345.
Yeah,
What would you
yeah.
have grossed on the 245 one?
Probably about like 180, I'd say. 180 to 200.
60, 70,000, something around
Yeah,
difference. So
yeah.
you're talking $160,000 difference by finagling and doing this. It's the same properties, just presented differently. What I talked about on my episode, Jess, was this idea in the part one of like sometimes we have to take a step back and review how, like we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, like the wheel might not be the most efficient or most optimal way of doing it. Like for example, Airbnb, you throw up a 7-bedroom on Airbnb and it's a 7-bedroom and you just take what you get, and sure you can have a nice place and have nice amenities. But when we take a step back, we're like, well, I can list this in different ways,
Yeah.
and it actually helps maximize revenue by increasing we're focusing on increasing occupancy, which brings us more revenue. It really changes the strategy and maximizes what a property can do. So I think that's it's really cool because a lot of people listening to this have bigger properties. They might not have side by side properties like you have,
Right.
but they can do the 2-bedroom thing
Oh,
like you talked
100%.
about, or they can slice and dice it however they want. And I've even done that too with duplexes and triplexes and stuff. And so I think it's just a really, 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 really powerful and impactful strategy for a lot of people. So what else about your properties? Tell us what they're netting. How are they doing? So you're grossing obviously a lot. What are they netting?
My one that's doing 245, I net about 100,000.
Wow.
And that should be more this year only because that 140 also included some upgrade. Like, that's
Sure.
including, I'm going off of what I did my taxes done last year, and that includes like the
Yep.
extra stuff you add. And the other one is about 142, so I'm netting about 200,000 off the other one.
Wow. So you're netting about 300K off of these
Yeah.
properties.
Right.
That's awesome.
And I think that's important to know too, like to know your market, because what's interesting to me is like, I am looking for one more. I'm in the market to do one more rental, and then I'll be done. But you have to know your market. So like St. Augustine is not a market where you put a pickleball court in. I've actually even known. I talked to a lot of owners, and I know somebody who put a pickleball court in, and it has brought them in zero extra revenue. Like, it is
Mm.
just not taking off. But if you're in Bradenton, like you cannot not have a pickleball court, right?
Yeah.
Or like, there's a couple like there's certain markets you have to have certain things. And that's just the baseline, that's not the extra. And
Right.
so what's interesting is if you look at my properties, they're just well done properties. I design them. I'm not a designer. I know how to make things look nice though. I always, I'm curious if I put a professional designer in there, could I bump it further? I don't know. I don't know how much room I could push this, to tell you the honest truth. And I mean, I'm guilty of this myself. You see all these beautiful properties on Facebook and oh my gosh, that barrel sauna looks amazing, or this looks amazing, and that, and then like you get tempted, like, oh, I should put that in my property. But reality
Yeah.
is like if I that's just me spending 15 grand, I probably really don't need to spend.
Well, yeah, does it really, is it going to, that's why I tell people, like, are you doing it to increase ADR, increase
Right.
occupancy, or increase guest experience? But at the same time, like, you can't, if you just add all these things, there's
Right.
diminishing return, right?
And then like I always like, people will ask too, and just so you know, like I know people who've spent 300,000. Like, you hear 7 bedroom. I just want you to know I've never, I mean, I don't think I've ever spent over $2,000 furnishing a bedroom, like, ever. Like, so there's certain places I put my money, and there's other places that you don't need to. And, and even this house that I'm putting the 2 bedrooms in January, the only thing it's really missing still is like an outdoor, not like a full kitchen would be amazing, but let's talk about that. Like, I could easily put a $30,000 outdoor kitchen in this backyard, and would guests love it? 100%. But I'm hoping to put one in for like, just a modest one with a nice granite countertop, just the grill with like a pergola, it'll look amazing in pictures. But it's still workable for guests, because you want it to be like, I want it so that it's usable for the guest. It's easy to maintain, right? There's not a lot of little things to
Right.
break. I also don't want to get a phone call because the refrigerator outside is broken. Now I have to deal with that. So I try to like balance what's going to look good in pictures, what's going to be useful for my guests and create a better experience for them, but still cost effective. And I think if you can nail that and not get caught up in like, well, I'm going to put in a $25,000 outdoor kitchen that's going to look mind blowing. Well, that's awesome, but I'm pretty sure I'll get the same return doing my $10,000 or $12,000, you know, or less kitchen, right? My $10,000 pergola with the grill station, I probably will get the same return from it.
Yeah.
Now there's times you need the big extravagant something, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, it just depends on the property, right? Like, it depends on your guests and
yeah,
the property's location and what it can, like, I look at a really good example of this. I look at a market like the Poconos,
yeah.
where there's lakefront, there's non-lakefront. Well, you look at the non-lakefront properties, they're just amenitized
Yep.
down to the,
You have to be a mini resort.
and you have to, right? Because you're not on the lake, right? Whereas the lake ones, they don't need all that stuff. They don't have pickleball courts.
I would actually, in my dream world, I'd have a lakefront with all the amenities, because nobody really has it there like that, because
That's true.
they lean heavily in the fact that they have the lake, which is fair.
Cool. Okay. Well, just as we're kind of wrapping up here, one question I like to ask all of my guests, if I remember, uh, is what's one, and it could be about what we talked about, it could be anything you want. What's one piece of advice or recommendation you tell potential host or current host how to cash flow positive with their properties?
To stay in terms of with your everything comes down to a lot of it comes down to your pricing. And I'm going to say stay humble but mindful. And what I mean by that is it is very tempting, especially if you have a lean month, to lower your prices and play that, go as low as, because I'd rather make $100 than make no dollar, or, that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Although I think all of us hosts have gotten to the point where you have that guest. And by the way, I am that cheap guest. Like, I want to be as cheap as possible when I travel. Like, if I'm going somewhere fast, and I'm an amazing guest. So I'm not saying that all people who pay less money are, there's that risk.
Sure.
But we've all had guests where you literally would give back the money and say, like, this isn't worth it. This is just an agony. So I think I think one of the best things you can do is really take a year to focus in and find your breaking point where you keep your guest quality at a certain point, but you know where your bottom is. So that way you can deploy the bottom price when you need to. And don't wait until it's too late. And I mean, I'm still guilty of this. Like, I think I kept my 7-bedroom prices too high for December when I should have lowered them at the beginning of November, but I didn't, and I should have.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're all evolving and learning and being re-humbled all over again. So, and don't be hard on
Yeah.
yourself, but I would just say, try to think outside the box like that, and don't go. A quick way to not be cash flow positive is to invest deeply into things that aren't really going to give you the return. So, research your market. I mean, I talk to everybody, but I want to know everything about any market because I love learning, and I find who's really good in a market, right? Like,
No, it's great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing all your advice, and we appreciate you being on the show today and telling people about why they should go buy in St. Augustine.
yeah,
Just kidding.
they can afford it. I don't even buy and say Augustine anymore.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm like, man, I have not found a good deal there in a hot minute.
But
So,
I still look.
um,
I look for my clients all the time because I want to put somebody there, and I know the market so well that I know what it needs, and the market has it's just changed.
it has. It really has. So anyway. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. And I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. I hope you can take some nuggets away. I think you really can. I think a lot of people can and should. And if you enjoyed this and you're actually going to go take action, do me a huge favor. If you're watching on YouTube, the Cashflow Positive channel, hit like and subscribe on this video. And then if you're listening, please, if you haven't done so on Spotify or iTunes, would love a 5-star review. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Jess, again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll see everybody on the next episode of Cashflow Positive.